Thank you for joining us. I'm Farah Morali. We begin south of the border, where a giant in U.S. politics has died. Jimmy Carter, the 39th U.S. president and oldest living president ever, is dead at the age of 100. Lindsay Duncombe now with a look back at his life and legacy.
In Jimmy Carter, the United States elected an outsider, plain-spoken, humble, religious.
I, Jimmy Carter, do solemnly swear.
The promise of his presidency a contrast to the scandal of the Nixon White House.
Let us create together a new national spirit of unity and trust.
Carter grew up on a peanut farm in rural Georgia. He served in the Navy before returning home to expand the family business. A Southern Democrat, as governor, he promoted civil rights and education. Carter aimed to achieve a competent and compassionate government, but his achievements were often overshadowed by a world in turmoil and a suffering economy. Carter embraced the role of peacemaker and focused his attention on the Middle East. The deal between Israel and Egypt, known as the Camp David Accords, solidified Carter's reputation as a statesman. It led to a Nobel Peace Prize. But it was the conflict with Iran that many say defined his presidency. In 1979, Islamic extremists overthrew the American-backed Shah. Iranian students took over the U.S. Embassy. 52 Americans were held hostage for more than a year. Carter ordered a high-risk rescue. It failed. 8 American servicemen were killed in a helicopter crash. The conflict with Iran led to a gas shortage, long lines and panic at the pump when Americans could least afford it. Inflation soared while wages stagnated.
It is a crisis of confidence.
In what's known as his malaise speech in 1979, Carter urged Americans to reduce consumption. He criticized self-indulgence and consumerism. It didn't go over well, especially in contrast to the telegenic Hollywood optimism of the man campaigning for Carter's job. Ronald Reagan would defeat Carter in 1980. Unpopular and just 56, Carter at first struggled with the adjustment to post-presidential life. But in the decades that followed, his public service would outshine his presidency. In 1982, he opened the Carter Center, devoted to peace and human rights. He and his wife Rosalind helped build homes all over the world through Habitat for Humanity. He authored dozens of books, including a fly fishing guide and a novel. His 2006 book, which compared Israeli actions in Gaza and the West Bank with South African apartheid, drew sharp criticism from fellow Democrats. He spoke to CBC about the controversy.
The word apartheid is provocative, but I don't look on the word provocative as negative.
In 2015, a devastating diagnosis. Carter had metastatic melanoma spread to his brain. A new drug regime put him in remission, and Carter continued to work into his 90s, traveling, building, preaching, living up to the title of his autobiography, A Good Life. Lindsay Duncombe, CBC News, Washington.
Back here at home, a group of neighbors in Toronto's West End are rallying to help some of their own this week. Just days before Christmas, a small business in the Junction Triangle neighborhood was robbed. In the spirit of the holidays, their peers are stepping up to help. Tyler Cheese has that story.
Lucky Convenience is a neighborhood staple at the corner of Perth and Wallace Avenues.
Hey, how are you?
Polly Shua owns the store with her husband. She says she's very happy to live in a tight-knit local community. But early on the morning of December 21st, that sense of security was shaken when intruders broke into the store.
We saw from the camera, so 2 guys broke the back door with a tool and then came in here. So they came to the counter area, and then I think they tried to open the cigarette drawer, but they found 2 cases of cigarettes, and then they just took it and gone.
Shia says the thieves were in and out of the store in less than 2 minutes, and they took about $9,000 worth of cigarettes. Toronto police confirm a break-in was reported at the convenience store.
Feel so sad. Feel very, very sad. We just thought, oh, we worked so hard, and then just 1 minute they took it.
Fortunately, the Shia's luck turned around pretty quickly when some neighbors heard what happened.
We were both really concerned, wondering what we could do for them. And that's when we thought of possibly being able to do a GoFundMe.
Xia says that many regular customers wanted to find ways to help out in the days following the incident.
On December 24th, right, here was so busy, like unusual busy. People, so like kids or older people, they come here, they give me cards, and then some people give us like a cards with money.
Since the GoFundMe was started, more than $9,000 has been raised. Supporters say that's typical of the neighborhood.
It goes to show like how much the neighborhood really appreciates Holly and Andy and how hard they work. And I think it highlights like the importance of small business, local business that are really like maintaining the fabric of our community.
Now that things are back to normal at Lucky Convenience, Xia wants her community to know how grateful she and her family are for their help. Tyler Cheese, CBC News, Toronto.
It has been a soggy day for folks in southern Ontario. Heavy rain and fog blanketing the region, with Environment Canada issuing rainfall warnings and fog advisories. The agency says it expects up to 30 millimeters of rain. It's warning localized flooding is possible in low-lying areas. Several conservation authorities are issuing flood watches and statements. The rains were so heavy that the City of Toronto had to set up wastewater bypasses at the Ashbridges Bay and Humber treatment plants. Sophia Gambalia joins us for our first look at the forecast. Sophia, it felt like that rain just wouldn't stop today.
Yes, Farah, the radar has pretty much looked like this the entire day. These bands of heavy rain have been nonstop. The totals are still coming in and counting, at least 20 millimeters out there. We're sure to get a ton more into the overnight period. I expect the rainfall warnings will begin to drop off in the overnight period. But remember, the pooling, ponding, and flooding is still very possible. The ground is mostly frozen, has a reduced ability to absorb all this rain that is coming down. There was a potent start to this system as well. It came from the strong tornado spawning cold front where dozens of reported tornadoes, baseball size hail, and multiple fatalities were seen in a severe weather outbreak Saturday in the Gulf states. The cold front was picked up by the jet stream and brought up on this conveyor belt and turned into a rainy, soggy, and wild Sunday system with some pretty gusty winds as well. You'll still continue to see the rest of this 30 to 40 millimeters into the overnight period and then into Monday. A couple changes though for Monday. We're already starting to see some colder air up towards the Nickel Belt. What was rain is starting to change over into a bit of snowfall, and that cooler northwest flow will make for some higher elevation wet snow mixing in for those of you in places like Mount Forest, the Dundalk Highlands, Orangevale, and even the Algonquin Highlands. We still are a few degrees above seasonal for Monday, along with that lingering rain, but it won't last for long. I'll tell you about the cool down in the long range.
All right, thanks, Sophia. Investigators in South Korea have been combing the charred and mangled wreckage of the air crash that has stunned the world. Landing gear failed to deploy, and there were only 2 survivors. Ithil Musa reports.
The airliner skidded off the runway on its belly, completely out of control, headed for a concrete wall and a fiery explosion. 179 people are dead. The only survivors, 2 cabin crew pulled from the burning wreckage. Family members wept at the airport as officials announced the names of victims, some identified only by their fingerprints. She was almost home, says this grief-stricken father. His daughter was returning from a holiday trip to Thailand with friends. After a public apology, the airline CEO promised to investigate the cause. Jeju Air will make every effort to resolve the situation quickly, he said. The plane was a Boeing 737-800, flown by airlines around the world, including in Canada. There were no maintenance issues flagged, but officials say the landing gear did not deploy properly.
Mayday, Mayday, Mayday 세 번 선언했고요.
They also say a pilot told air traffic control the plane had suffered a bird strike before issuing a mayday call and crashing into a concrete barrier. One expert wonders why it was there in the first place.
I would say that absolutely contravenes international standards to have that wall there. no question about it. It should never have a wall anywhere near the runway. Nowhere near it.
The crash, one of South Korea's worst aviation disasters, comes amid a political crisis, including the impeachment of 2 presidents. There are many government organizations that are vacant at the moment, says this man. This leads to uncertainty about whether the government can effectively perform its duties and respond to the accident. Idil Musa, CBC News, Toronto.
Developments today in another deadly plane crash. Today, Azerbaijan's president accused Russia of being responsible for the downing of an Azerbaijan Airlines jet. Ilham Aliyev said Russian forces unintentionally shot it down and claims Russian officials lied in an attempted cover-up. Funerals were held today for the pilots and a flight attendant. 38 people in total died in the crash. Officials say the pilots landed nose first, ensuring their own deaths, but probably playing a role in saving the 29 survivors. The Kremlin said that air defense systems were firing in the area where the plane attempted to land to deflect a Ukrainian drone strike. Vladimir Putin issued an apology yesterday, but stopped short of acknowledging Moscow's responsibility. Closer to home, Halifax's Stanfield Airport witnessed a rough landing last night. A plane skidded down the runway and passengers disembarked with part of the plane on fire. Jennifer Yoon reports.
A heart-stopping moment caught on video by a passenger as his plane landed Saturday night at Halifax International Airport.
The plane started vibrating like horribly, not like anything normal when you land. It was, there's something wrong here.
It skidded down the runway as flames were visible on one of the wings. Smoke was filling the cabin as everybody on board, 73 passengers and 4 crew members, were evacuated from the flight safely. Nobody was seriously hurt. Passengers say it still feels surreal.
Kind of in shock, kind of in disbelief, but the next day you realize how serious it was and it could have been, so.
One of Halifax Airport's runways remained closed Sunday as the Transportation Safety Board of Canada deployed a team of investigators to the scene.
Any inbound flights were diverted to other nearby airports, and also there were some delays and canceled flights as a result of the timing of when this took place.
Air Canada says it suspects a landing gear issue may be behind the incident. Some aviation experts agree and say the crew performed admirably under difficult circumstances.
The professionalism of the crew in evacuating the aircraft and getting everybody off the airplane quickly, that is just an example of how well these guys are trained.
Graddock is hoping to reassure Canadians flying is a safe mode of travel despite the spate of plane crashes these past few days. For passengers in Halifax, a sense of relief looms large.
Everybody's just very, very lucky that under the circumstances everything happened, that there was nothing worse, especially with the Korea flight that just happened. If you saw the video from that, oh my God. This was pretty similar.
The Transportation Safety Board is expected to give an update in the coming days. Jennifer Yoon, CBC News, Montreal.
Welcome back. Team Canada made a comeback of sorts at the World Junior Hockey Championships tonight after a crushing and unexpected blow by Latvia Friday. Today beating Germany in their 3rd game of the tournament.
Played back across for Price. Caden Price, long shot, got through. Rebound, score! Off the end, boards it, banks in, and Canada leads 2-0.
It was another surprisingly low-scoring game for the Canadians, only taking a 3-0 victory. That 3rd goal coming as an empty netter with 2 seconds left in the game. Canada's win ties them with the U.S. for the lead in Group A standings, and the rivalry between the two countries will resume when they meet again on New Year's Eve. Well, from looking back to looking ahead, the countdown is on to 2025, now just days away. As Tyreek Reed shows us, there is plenty of fun happening around Toronto and plans to keep people safe.
Gonna go clubbing? You live once. 2024 was not it. 2025 is gonna be my year.
Excitement is high as people prepare to ring in the new year, which means transit hubs like Union Station are set to be a hotspot with people arriving and departing for festivities. This is what the station looked like last year. To help avoid these kinds of crowds, the city is restricting access to most entrances. The TTC says it's already prepared for the uptick in ridership.
We're going to have extra subway service. and streetcar service in the downtown core. Subways will be running until around 2:30. Will be the last trains north out of Union Station. So there'll be a lot of late night subway service.
Metrolink says it's also extending service across GO train and bus networks. Both transit agencies will offer free rides between 7 p.m. on New Year's Eve to 8 a.m. on New Year's Day, which means passengers can look forward to kicking off the new year with heavier wallets.
That's amazing, you know, like if it gets me to the right place, then I'm up for it.
We're leaning towards going here now since it's free. So, of course, free is definitely much better.
But some people say leaving the house won't be an option.
This is the one year in a long time where I actually don't have to work, so I'm looking forward to a nice long sleep.
No downtown, we're sticking at home this year.
And if you don't have plans yet, the City of Toronto says it has your back.
So from 10 p.m. onwards in the Music Gardens, we will have a stage show with local DJ collective Tracks and Feels. And then at 11:45, we'll be starting our sort of celebratory countdown, which is co-hosted with Mayor Olivia Chow and Sanjina Debish Queen, a local amazing drag entertainer.
But no matter where you are and what you're doing, Toronto Police Service is reminding everyone to keep safety top of mind.
We ask that you plan ahead with your ride, either expecting to take TTC, which is free in the evening, or having a designated driver who will be sober. Also using any rideshare programs or services that are available to you with safety features activated. We also ask that everyone has some more patience as they're traveling around the city. There will be more crowds and more delays.
And if you're running errands that day, keep in mind that some malls will be closed and most LCBO locations will close at 6 p.m. Terry Greed, CBC News, Toronto.
Welcome back. Toronto residents took off their coats and more, braving the cold at the Bentway's 5th Polar Bear Skate.
I'm always impressed with the creativity. People, strip down, but they also come decked out with costumes. Sometimes they're festive, sometimes they're repurposing Halloween wear. So it's a great vibe, it's a great time.
I wanted to participate because I think it's a really fun idea. I think this is such a great use of this space. My partner lives right across the street. It's nice to open a skating rink here. Also, I think there's a good body positivity aspect. And
why not? Get some, a fun experience.
Come on in.
Well, despite the heavy rains today, the event actually sold out. And it wasn't all just for fun. Organizers collected warm clothing donations for New Circles Community Services to support local families in need. Sophia's back with a final look at the forecast. Sophia, sounds like that wet weather is sticking around tonight.
Yes, the soggy Sunday continues. Let's talk about the winds as well. Right now it's about 4 degrees. Southerly flow. We had some pretty gusty winds over the past 12 hours or so, 40, 50, even close to 60 kilometers an hour with some of those gusts. Again, radar looking pretty constant. We are starting to see that switch over, though, to some snow north of the Nickel Belt. We'll tell you about that in a minute. Depending on how much rain we get today and tomorrow, we could be on tap for one of the top 5 rainiest December days. Remember, usually when we get this type of precipitation, it's usually cold enough for snow this time of year. We're still a few degrees above seasonal into Monday, but the colder trend is looming. We'll talk about that more just in a second. Here's that switch over to snow north of the Nickel Belt, Chapleau, Timmins, Sudbury. And then for Monday, the ushering in of a little bit of that cold northwest flow will make for some of those areas of wet snow, higher elevation, Dundalk Highlands, Orangeville, Mount Forest, before we clear out and cool down for Tuesday into Wednesday. The next system that comes in, here's the interesting thing, we will actually be on the northern edge of the storm track, which means if any precipitation comes our way, it's going to be in the form of snow. It will be cold enough after that next New Year's Day system to potentially create a few disruptive days yet again of lake effect snow, especially for some of the traditional suspect snow belt regions. It will also mean little bursts of snow and a few days of that really chilling cold for areas like the nation's capital region, even down to southwestern Ontario and around the GTA. Mother Nature is throwing a little bit of everything to end off 2024 and turn the calendar page into 2025. Farah?
All right, thanks so much, Sophia. And that is our show for you tonight, the final Sunday of the year. I'm Farah Morale. Thanks so much for watching. Have a great night.